So once you've downloaded QGIS, you want to start using it. And you can again find QGIS in your Start menu down here in the alphabetical list of applications under QGIS 3.4, QGIS desktop, clicking on this. Now one thing you can do is drag this down to your Start bar. Now I've already done that here, but it will lock it then along this bar across the bottom, so you don't have to come in here and look for it each time, and it shows up here then, so you can just double left click down here. But either place, start QGIS by that double left click, wait for the splash screen to go through, and you open then the main window of QGIS. Now you see here you have across the top a set of operations you can effect in the text. If I click on each of these, there'll be a drop down that shows various tools and things you can do, and a bunch of icons. There's the main window where data will show up once we have data, a list of locations or data sets I can grab, and then there's a table of contents where layers will show up. Now you may have slightly different tools when you look to QGIS. I'll show you how to turn tools on and off in just a second, but first, sometimes when you install, these fonts are too small or large, or the icons are too small or large. If you're like me, us old folks sometimes don't have as good eyesight, we need larger icons. But either way, you can, through the settings here, by left click the settings on the top, and go down to options, I can change the size. Now this is shown a little bit big here. I can change the size in the general settings. So if I look at the application set here in this general settings for my options, there's a icon size, and so if I pull down just a little bit, I can show you that if I can reduce the icon size, so they're 16 font or 32 font really big, or 24, I'll leave them at the 24 that they're on. Those change automatically and instantly. Now here I can also change the font, so if I want to change these font sizes, I can click this up or down. This won't take effect until I restart QGIS. The fonts get loaded at the start of QGIS. So if I want them bigger, in all the menus that show up and along the ribbons here, I can increase or decrease the size to what I want. I'll leave them at 10 because that's fine. Now whatever my settings, I have to set OK to affect them. And again, if I change the font, I'd have changed then the size next time I open QGIS. So I can also change what shows up by looking at the View menu here down at the Panels and Toolbars. So across the top, clicking on View and down to Panels or Toolbars, I can turn on or off these different panels. So right now I have the Layers panel and the Browser panel. I could turn on a processing toolbox here. You can see on the side a toolbox shows up of different operations I can apply. Much more about those later. Or various other settings. So in the view also, I can, in the panels, turn these back off and they disappear. Now they'll appear around the sides or as tabs here, one on top of another. This set is fine for now. I just wanted to let you know that you can change those view. And also then in the view, I can look at the toolbars, and this has all the toolbars that are currently listed and displayed. So I have a vector toolbar here, a raster toolbar, and navigation toolbar. So if I turn this map navigation off, you'll see some of these icons disappear. So down to the toolbars, map navigation. When I turn that off, then my navigation tools disappear that allow me to zoom and pan around my main map. Again, I can go back down to the view and change those toolbars and turn the map navigation back on, and they show back up here. So once you have the toolbar set up the way you want, you've turned on or off the ones that you're going to use or commonly use, and you have the icons the right size and the system customized to your desires, you can go ahead then and add some data. But first you have to get some data. Now there are lots of places to find data. You might be working on a project where you have lots of your own data, but a good source in Minnesota is the MinGeo website. There's all sorts of data you can find on the MinGeo website. So in this MinGeo, if you click on the Minnesota Geospatial Commons, or just this www.mingeo.state.mn.us, you can then find GIS data and you can search for data by type. So DNR Lakes, for example, lists 52 resources, in this case 52 data sets. And so there's this DNR hydrography data set, which I downloaded earlier. There's large lakes, there's DNR stream and trout lakes, so all sorts of lakes you might want to get. You could also download, for example, county boundaries, and there's various resources, so I could download these. Now if you click on any of these, you'll find data to download and then a full metadata record. So when you're searching for data, you often will look at this metadata and make sure that it's the data you want, has the extent you want, has the detail that you want, has the table value. So in this case, this data set in the table has county names and unique identifiers and FIPS codes and who's responsible for the data. So the metadata really tell you if the data are useful for you. And then there are often various formats. Now you'll commonly see these three formats for vector data, this OGC geopackage, a shapefile, and the Esri geodatabase. The easiest to deal with in many ways is a shapefile. So we'll go ahead and download that. Folks are starting to use these OGC geopackages a lot. If you come from an ArcInfo environment, use these Esri geodatabases a lot. We'll save this file, although I've already done this once in advance, and it's saving these data to my downloads folder. And I noticed that the downloaded data comes as a zip file. You can see the folder has a little zipper on it here in the icon. I could change to a medium or large icon to show that. And I want to expand or uncompress these data. So if I right-click on them in Windows, I can extract all. It asks me if I want to extract them in the location. I'll take the default. It extracts it and opens a new window. But if I close that window, I can see, yeah, now I have the shape location centers both as a compressed file and as an expanded folder. So I go ahead and right-click and delete this zip file. No reason to keep it hanging around. So if I want to add data, I can click on this Add Data button up here in the corner, and it looks like a set of layers, and then there are choices. Mostly we'll be adding vector data and raster data, file data in this case, and so I can, here in the source, by this Browse button, navigate to data to load. So here's the data I just downloaded, and here's some data I downloaded prior. One thing about these data is that most of them come, if they're large data sets, zipped up. So it's a zip file. You have to uncompress that. And if you don't know how to do that, there's a video on uncompressing data, in this case in Windows. So once I've downloaded and uncompressed the data, I then can display the data. So here I click on the data and go to the shapefile to open it. Right? I then click Add. I get this banner while the data are loading, and then it finishes, and here are my data. Now these are the county data. I can right-click on the data and look at the attribute table. So again, I right-click and scroll down, and then left-click to open the attribute table, and this shows the tabular information associated with each one of these vector polygons. There's a county name, a county code, a county FIPS, a county GNI, a shape length, and a shape area. So I could go to the metadata and find out what those are, what's the significance. The name makes sense. The FIPS, it will describe what a FIPS code is, and then I can maybe look at other information if I'm still confused on what a Federal Information Processing Standard code is. But nonetheless, I have all these data then downloaded and displayed. If I want to show you then how to unzip the data, those data are already unzipped. I have some Duluth data here. It's raster data. I can right-click in Windows and extract all, and extract those data to this location. And that will then give me a data set, a raster data set to display. So if I want to display raster data, I can again left-click on this icon, click on raster, navigate to the Duluth data I downloaded and expanded. So here it is. And there are a bunch of files in there. Now, because I've worked with these kinds of data before and I read the metadata, I know that the TIFF file, this largest one here, holds the actual raster data. So I want to select that and open it and add it. And then I get this data for land cover for Duluth showing up. Now notice that's only for a small portion of the state, so I have to go to the zoom up here, click on it to activate it, and then I can left click and drag over an area to zoom in to that area. And this shows the land cover then for Duluth. Now if I want to look at the values, I can left click on this plus sign, and it shows that there's values 1, 2, 3, 4, but I don't know what those mean. I go back to the metadata in the data description, and it'll tell me that the 2 and the 3 and the 4 are various developed land cover types, buildings, roads, asphalt, those sorts of things. And then I can sort of zoom around. Now, the pan and zoom buttons up here are quite useful. So this hand allows me to left click and hold and drag. The click on the minus magnifier is a zoom out. So each time I click, I zoom out. And when I have this other plus magnifier tool, I can zoom in. So I drag, zoom in, or zoom out. I can zoom back to the full extent of all the data that are being shown, or I can zoom back to my last zoom. So you find yourself zooming with these tools, zooming last, zooming next, back and forth, using these pan and zoom to navigate about your data. So that's it for a quick overview of the layout of QGIS and how do we add data and navigate around the data.